Thank you for the invitation to come and be part of the panel this evening. I was looking around to see what the audience was like and where everybody had come from. I thought I'd throw a few questions out there and say, anybody from Te Tai Tukido?
Sure.
Boom! David Seymour. That's right. David Seymour is from Te Tai Tukido, which is in the far north. Anyone from Te Tai Tunga? That's South Island. Boom! There you go. We've got two. So we've got north and south, and everything else is from the middle. Very good. All right. Well, it's an interesting debate. I appreciated your comments. I thought that they were very good, and on a number of the issues that have been raised so far tonight, I completely agree. So the Maori Party, as you may know, has advocated for sugar tax, has been instrumental in influencing the government to increase excise tax on tobacco. In fact, that is something we'd like to see continue happen, and there are a number of reasons for that. There was a comment made that the people who are advocating for a hike in excise tax wouldn't like to see it go any further. In fact, it's about 150% at the moment. That's completely untrue. Every single lobby group that has been running through my door since the day I got into Parliament has all asked me to put it up, put it up, put it up, please. That price point is the absolute difference between uptake and continued smoking in the groups that are there. But what do? I go and I talk with people who are still smoking, because in fact every demographic in the country is coming down, except for one, Maori women. And so I go and talk to my cousins, aunties, friends who are still smoking, and I say, why are you doing that? Everybody else is quitting. Like, the whole country's quitting. Why are you still smoking? And they all look at me and tell me one thing, common, one reason among all of them, and that is stress. It is their stress relief. So while we might have excise tax, that it makes it more difficult, and I say, well, how much would it have to cost for you to really go, well, maybe this is not good for me anymore? And they said, well, we're getting to that point now. And so I asked them, okay, so if cost is an issue and it's getting beyond your ability to continue, would you prefer an alternative, e-cigarettes? Yes, absolutely. I don't have an issue. In fact, I've been trying to lobby the government since I got in to introduce e-cigarettes, or to change the law which prevents us selling the little vials of nicotine at the moment, which is the oral tobacco law that's been in ever since we tried to outlaw chewing tobacco. So maybe we should just let chewing tobacco come back. And then there's the regulation of vaping or e-cigarettes, and should they be allowed to vape on aeroplanes or in offices. My daughter came home from Cotton On. She had purchased one of these little sticks, and it was a vanilla ear, they call it, puffing ear, and it was covered with little flowers. And so then the debate goes, are we incentivizing young people into smoking by making it look attractive with little neon light, e-cigarettes, making them look very cool? And is that going to then adversely affect the decrease? Really good for people giving up, but what about the young people who think that looks pretty flash? And how the heck does Cotton On get to sell my daughter a little stick that puffs out ear and smells like flowers, and think that that's a good thing? So then we come, let's get back to my notes, of which I actually have some. The Maori Party has looked on lifestyle regulations favourably for making positive changes to what we consider negative social behaviours. During the 2014 general election, we campaigned on investigating the sugar tax on sweetened beverages and successfully lobbied the government to annually increase excise tax on tobacco products since 2010. Too many of our people are dying from smoking-related causes. We lose 5,000 Kiwis a year through smoking-related causes, and many of those are Māori. We also were successful in getting the government to commit to a smoke-free Aotearoa 2025 goal, which is actually to have smoking in New Zealand under 5%. We're almost there. We tried to get, well, we're not almost there, correct that, but there are some places in this country where actually you're already about 5% of everywhere, might be one of them. Boom, again, David Seymour, 2 for 2. And so we thought, what about voluntary smoke-free communities? I was in Perth 2 weekends ago, and you can't smoke anywhere, and nobody does. I went uptown at 2 in the morning, don't ask me why. I was actually sober driving for somebody who wanted to go and see what the nightlife looked like in Perth. After Copenhagen, I was, thank you very much. But what I was doing is I looked around and thought the place was full of young people. It was like gridlock at 2 in the morning, which I thought was remarkable. But nobody was smoking. There was no hanging around outside bars. There was nobody up the little alleyways. And I just thought that was remarkable. We went to a cafe area by the seaside, similar to our waterfront, and there was no smoking areas anywhere. And so, in fact, I went to go and ask people, where do people smoke around here? And they said, in the car park. And they just had an MOU together because they decided that this is not something we want in our area of shops and our cafes and the little beach area that people would bring their children to. And so if you wanted to smoke, you can smoke. You just have to do it in the car park. See you later. I just thought that was really interesting. At the airport, you could walk out the door of the airport, people are smoking outside on the footpaths. They had a little cubbyhole that was walled, where if you want to smoke, that's the only place in the entire airport precinct that you could go and have a cigarette. They had vending machines and chairs. I thought people stayed there for a while. They had 3 or 4. I just thought that it was something that they had just started to grow into. They are beating us now. They are whipping our butt around becoming a smoke-free country. And they had just decided that they want to do that. If we as a nation want to do that, is that as bad as saying that we shouldn't do it because we're impeding on somebody else's liberties? What about second-hand smoke? What about children who grow up in a home where parents have smoked? Are they more likely to then smoke themselves? Is that their free choice? Or have they been influenced to smoking because of it? I mean, the whole argument that has been reported here about whether or not you have a tax on just these things, is it sugar to fight obesity, or is it smoking, are we impeding on somebody's liberties? Well, actually, that all comes back to whether or not people have the same starting point at the beginning, right? Because if everybody had an equitable starting point, then that argument would hold sway, but they don't at all. I just came from Auckland today. I was at the Drug and Alcohol Court pilot that is happening in Auckland. It is remarkable. So instead of throwing somebody in jail for drug and alcohol related offences, they keep them out and they put them into rehab. And they spend actually about $6 million estimated savings on the number of people that they've put through the Drug and Alcohol Court through rehab instead of throwing them back into jail, because what does that do? How have their addictions impeded on the people around them? So again, I come back to the thing, we should just, if we have no, if we don't impede on people's civil liberties or their individual sovereignty, that's a nice term, then why not just let everybody smoke marijuana wherever they want? Isn't that the argument we're having at the moment? What about pee? Where do we stop? What about heroin and cocaine? Where do we stop? As long as I'm not hurting anybody else, surely that's fine. Except that these are addictive substances. And the woman who stood up in court graduating today because 4 years ago she was drunk behind a wheel and smacked into somebody, and they were injured, not killed. And she was sent to this place instead of straight to jail. It was her 3rd offence of driving while intoxicated, and something like her 14th offence of driving while disqualified. And so the judge took a punt and said, actually, we want you here. We're going to change your behaviour by sending you to rehab and then putting support around you and celebrating your successes as you go through these stages. And today she graduated. She was here and she was given a haka and acknowledged by one of the the local kaumātua who were there, and she loved it. She said, that was just being Kiwi. That's awesome, that's part of who I am. Have we impeded on her liberties or somebody else's liberties? Or have we made a judgment because her individual behaviour was now creeping onto everyone around her, including her children, her sister's children and her family. And that's where we differ. So if you are smoking at home, you are impacting on your children. If you're drinking at home, you are impacting on your children. If you are drinking to excess at home, I should say, you're impacting on your children. And you can't do things as individuals. We don't see that you do things as individuals. That's why we have whānau order. Because when you do something to one person in the family, it impacts on the entire family. Whether that's grandparents helping out because you've been not turning up to work because your drinking has become a problem. Whether that is your extended family who are coming to make an intervention for you, or whether you're impacting on your children's ability to reach their full potential. I've completely not stuck to any of my notes. But the thing is, I could go through all the reasons why, all the statistics why, but in fact, if we go back to sovereignty, individual sovereignty, well, how far back should we go? We could go back 175 years, and then we could really talk about what sovereignty means, and whether or not we'd even be having this discussion in this forum if we had stamped our foot on sovereignty 175 years ago. So sovereignty is something that is, in my mind, something to be cherished, something to be upheld, something to be understood. And if we want to have equitable outcomes where everybody can realise some sort of lifestyle where they get to have a holiday, that's a nice idea, isn't it? That people have holidays and free time, downtime, or a lifestyle. I don't know many people in my family, neighbourhood, town, and a lot of towns around the country who actually enjoy a lifestyle. And talking to Māori who now live in Perth, they all tell me this is the first time in my entire life I've had a lifestyle where I get to go and enjoy my weekends because I'm being paid better than in New Zealand. And these were two top performing executives who couldn't afford a lifestyle in New Zealand. So lifestyle regulations, we absolutely think that they're necessary. And I'm going to go to one point that I actually did write down. And it's this. Janessa's report sort of talked about John Stuart Mill sort of also had an interesting framework for considering the justification or otherwise of lifestyle regulations. In a nutshell, Mill saw their individuals as independent and sovereign. The only just action that could be taken against an individual was that taken in the interest of self-protection. This gives a basic justification for limited paternal actions. In the context of lifestyle regulations, Mill would conclude that some have come at a cost to our individual sovereignty and independence and are therefore wrong. For example, while it is justified regulating alcohol intake when operating a car, this framework would suggest using tax increases to curb the rate of smoking is considered overly paternalistic, according to Mill. But he also says that to bring a child into existence without a fair prospect of being able not only to provide food for its body, but instruction and training for its mind is a moral crime. If the parent does not fulfil this obligation, the state ought to see it fulfilled at the charge, as far as possible, of the parent. So, to paraphrase Mill, we cannot stand by and not act where the health and livelihood of our children is being compromised for the sake of ideology. Our inaction makes us just as accountable for their injury as if we were causing the injury ourselves. And if we look at New Zealand and think about whose children are most vulnerable, whose children are most susceptible to being at the bottom of all the disparities in this country, then yes, we have no that taxation for the purposes that will aid the lifestyle of our children to reach their full potential, we have no qualm in influencing and introducing that to the government and asking them to step in where their parents may not have stepped in for them, but actually intergenerationally, this has been an outcome of the way that we have impeded on sovereignty in this country.